Listen to the room around you. Right now, pay attention. You hear the hum of a machine. You hear the distant sound of traffic. You hear the faint rustle of your own clothes. You hear safe sounds, predictable sounds, the sounds of a world that you have conquered, a world built entirely for you. Now strip those sounds away. Strip away the hum. Strip away the engines. Strip away the walls. Strip away 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 30,000 years. You are standing in the dark. It is freezing. The air smells like wet stone and copper. You are entirely blind in the blackness. And then you hear it. A sound cuts through the freezing air. It is not a wolf. It is not a bear. It is a creature walking on two legs. It opens its mouth, and the sound that rips out of its throat freezes the blood in your veins. It does not sound like a voice. It sounds like a weapon, a harsh, nasal, ear-splitting shriek that vibrates in your chest. You cannot understand it, but your brain does. Your ancient, primal brain understands exactly what that sound means. Your amygdala flares. Your heart rate spikes. You are hearing the frequency of violence. You are hearing the frequency of pure, unadulterated survival. You are hearing the voice of your ancestors. And it is absolutely terrifying. For your entire life, you have been lied to. You have been sold a comfortable illusion. You imagine early humans as just primitive versions of yourself, just hairier, less civilized. You imagine them sitting around a warm fire, grunting softly to each other, gesturing gently with their hands. You project your own modern voice onto them. You imagine a deep, booming, cinematic caveman voice, a voice that sounds fundamentally human. You are wrong. You are biologically, dangerously wrong. Your ancestors did not sound like you. Their bodies were built differently. Their skulls were built differently. Their throats were completely alien to yours. The sounds they produced were not designed for poetry. They were not designed for philosophy. They were not designed for gentle conversation. They were designed to cut through the howling wind of a blizzard. They were designed to coordinate the brutal slaughter of a mammoth. They were designed to intimidate predators that were twice their size and 10 times as strong. They were designed to dominate. Think about your own throat right now. Swallow. Feel that movement. That lump moving up and down. That is your larynx, your voice box. In you, it sits very low in your throat. It is an evolutionary anomaly. It is a bizarre mutation. It is exactly what allows you to produce the rich, varied vowels you use to speak, to sing, to whisper, to lie. But it is also a fatal flaw. Because your larynx sits so low, it shares a pathway with your esophagus. Every single time you swallow a piece of food, you risk choking to death. You trade the safety of breathing for the ability to speak. You risk death every single day just to communicate. Your ancient ancestors did not make that trade easily. They could not afford to. Look at the groundbreaking work of cognitive scientist Philip Lieberman. He spent decades analyzing the evolution of the human vocal tract. He examined the fossilized skulls of Neanderthals. He measured the base of their craniums. He reconstructed the soft tissue that time had rotted away. And he realized something absolutely chilling. Their vocal tract was completely different from yours. Their larynx was positioned much higher up in the throat, similar to a modern chimpanzee. They could swallow and breathe at the exact same time. They were safer. But because of that high larynx, they physically could not make the sounds you take for granted. They could not say the letter A. They could not say the letter I. They could not say the letter U. They lacked the physical machinery for it. If they tried to speak your modern language, it would sound like a grotesque parody. A muffled, choked, nasal string of consonants that would make your skin crawl. But they did not speak your language. They spoke their own. And it was piercing. In 2008, an anthropologist named Robert McCarthy decided to test this terrifying reality. He wanted to hear the ghost. He wanted to know what a Neanderthal actually sounded like. So he built a highly complex computer model. He took the fossil data, he mapped the vocal tract, and he simulated the sound of a Neanderthal saying a single vowel, the letter E. The sound he synthesized was not deep. It was not booming. It was high-pitched. It was incredibly loud. It was aggressively nasal. It sounded less like a human being and more like the screech of a wild animal. It was a sound designed to carry over miles of frozen tundra. It was a sound designed to pierce through the chaos of a hunt. If you heard that sound in the woods today, you would not think it was a person. You would run. You would run as fast as you could, because that sound triggers a biological alarm in your nervous system. But the pitch is only half the terror. The other half is the raw power. Bioacoustician Tecumseh Fitch has spent years studying the evolution of vocal anatomy across different species. He studies how animals use sound to survive, and he points out a crucial detail about our ancient cousins. Neanderthals were vastly stronger than you. They had massive, barrel-shaped chests. They had enormous lung capacity. They were built for explosive bursts of physical energy. When they forced air out of those massive lungs, through that high, restricted larynx, the volume would have been deafening. It was not a gentle voice. It was an acoustic weapon. Fitch's theories on bioacoustics suggest that their calls were meant to intimidate, to establish absolute dominance in a brutal, unforgiving world. When a Neanderthal screamed in the darkness, it was a warning to every living thing in a 5-mile radius. It meant, I am here, and I am the apex. Imagine it. Put yourself back in that freezing dark cave. You are early Homo sapiens. You are fragile. You are relatively weak. You have migrated into a new territory. The air is freezing. The shadows are long. You are huddling by a fire, trying to stay warm. You are trying to survive in a world that desperately wants to kill you. And then you hear it. From the darkness just beyond the firelight. A high-pitched, roaring, nasal shriek that echoes off the stone walls. It is a group of them. They are communicating. The sounds are sharp, repetitive, completely devoid of the smooth vowels you use to comfort your children. It sounds like a pack of monstrous birds mixed with the roar of a lion. You cannot decipher a single syllable. You cannot reason with it. You cannot negotiate with it. You can only listen as the shrieks get closer. The terror of that exact moment is etched into your DNA. The fear of the incomprehensible voice. The fear of the other. The fear of the thing in the dark that sounds almost human, but isn't. This is where your fear of monsters comes from. It is a literal evolutionary hangover. Your ancestors lived alongside another species of human. A species that was stronger, louder, and deeply alien. The memory of their terrifying voices still haunts the darkest, most primitive corners of your genetic code. The hyoid bone only tells you that the tongue was anchored. It does not tell you where the larynx sat. It does not tell you the shape of the internal resonance chamber. Imagine a violin. If you take the delicate strings off a Stradivarius and put them on a solid block of concrete, it will not sound like a violin. It will sound like scraping metal. The Neanderthal vocal tract was that block of concrete. The air pushed out by their massive lungs did not travel through a long, tubular pharynx like yours. It traveled through a short, wide, restrictive chamber. The sound had absolutely no space to soften, no space to round out. It was expelled raw, unfiltered, violent. This rawness is exactly what your brain fears today. Modern psychological studies on acoustic startle responses show that human beings are hardwired to react to specific sound profiles. We are deeply, biologically sensitive to nonlinear acoustic phenomena. These are sounds that exceed the normal capacity of a vocal system. The sudden screech of a microphone, the ragged scream of a terrified animal, the cry of a human baby in intense pain. These sounds completely bypass the logical, thinking centers of your brain. They do not ask for permission to scare you. They shoot straight into the amygdala. They trigger an immediate release of cortisol and adrenaline. Your pupils dilate. Your muscles tense. You are instantly ready to fight or run. The vocalizations of early ancient humans were entirely composed of these nonlinear acoustic phenomena. When they communicated across long distances, they were not singing. They were weaponizing sound. They were forcing maximum air pressure through a restrictive valve to create a blast of noise that would instantly trigger the fight or flight response in anything that heard it. When a Neanderthal called out to its hunting party, it was intentionally creating a sound of pure biological urgency. Now, imagine being the target of that urgency. You are Homo sapiens. You rely on stealth. You rely on complex coordination. You communicate in hushed tones, using complex syntax to plan traps and ambushes. You are quiet. You are the shadow, but they are the storm. You are tracking a herd of deer through a dense, primeval forest. The canopy blocks out the sun. The shadows are suffocating. You step on a twig. The snap echoes like a gunshot. Silence falls over the forest. The birds stop singing. The insects go quiet. You freeze, holding your breath. Then it begins. From the ridge above you, a sound that defies logic. It starts as a low, guttural vibration that you feel in your boots, in your knees, in your gut. Then it rises. It pitches up into that terrifying, nasal, deafening shriek that Robert McCarthy simulated in his lab. The sound bounces off the trees. It distorts. It multiplies. Suddenly, you hear a response from your left. Another high-pitched, roaring shriek. Then another from your right. They are triangulating your position. They are using sound as a net made of pure acoustic terror. You cannot understand the words, if there are words at all, but the message is crystal clear. You are surrounded. You are no longer the hunter. You are the prey. This is not science fiction. This was the terrifying reality of the human experience for tens of thousands of years. We shared this exact planet with other upright, intelligent, tool-using primates who possessed vocal power that completely dwarfed our own. We were the quiet ones, the physically weaker ones, the ones who had to rely on deception and complex planning because we could not win in a screaming match. We could not win in a contest of brute force. So we evolved to hide. We evolved to whisper. And we evolved to fear the loud, harsh sounds of the wild. Our entire modern civilization is built strictly on the foundation of quiet control. We build soundproof rooms. We listen to soft music. We regulate the volume of our society because we are deeply terrified of the noise. We are terrified of the raw, unfiltered sound of nature. We are terrified of the past. But there is an even darker truth. The reason you sound the way you do today is because of a brutal evolutionary filter. Complex language, the ability to tell stories, to plan for the future, to build societies, required a descended larynx. It required the physical ability to produce precise, varied sounds. The species that developed that ability survived. They formed larger groups. They shared complex information. They built weapons. They built walls. The species that retained the high larynx, the piercing shriek, the primal roar, they went completely extinct. They were wiped off the face of the earth, perhaps by the changing climate, perhaps by rampant disease, or perhaps they were wiped out by you, by your ancestors, the ancestors who could whisper, the ancestors who could quietly plot in the dark. Every time you speak, you are using the biological weapon that allowed your species to conquer the globe. Your soft, varied, nuanced voice is the sound of the ultimate predator. The Neanderthal shriek was terrifying, yes. It was loud, it was brutal, it was primal. But your voice is the sound of the creature that survived, the creature that outsmarted them, the creature that drove them entirely into the abyss of extinction. So listen to the silence of your room again. Listen to your own breathing. Swallow. Feel that low larynx moving in your throat. You are carrying the legacy of a bloody evolutionary victory. You are speaking with the throat of a survivor. But deep down, beneath the layers of civilization, beneath the poetry and the philosophy and the comfortable lies, your brain still remembers the dark. It still remembers the freezing cold. And it still remembers the chilling, nasal, high-pitched shriek of the beings that used to rule the night. The next time you are alone in the woods, and you hear a sound you cannot quite identify, pay close attention to the sudden drop in your stomach. Pay attention to the hair standing up on your arms. That is not just fear. That is an ancient memory waking up. That is your body remembering the terrifying truth of what the world sounded like before you owned it.